宽人灭门的计划至此已显而易见，而且效果显著。原本纯真善良的修行团体，一夜之间风云变色，让纯白的练功服蒙上难以磨灭的阴影。受害的家庭成千上万，承受的伤害更是难以言喻。
沿途所犯的这些的法条，没有一个人受到一个深戒的处分，小过大过就不用讲。
Amid the first Taiwanese presidential election in December 1996, several government officials, including a prosecutor named Ho Kuan-ren, falsely accused Taijimen of fraud and witchcraft. They sought to exploit the group's resources for their own benefits, which led to an international debate on whether their actions toward Taijimen were lawful. Evidence shows that their actions were unjustified, which resulted in a diplomatic stalemate between the two groups. Established in 1966 by Dr. Hong Dao-zi, Taijimen is a menpai similar to school that teaches martial arts and qigong. Dr. Hong established it in hopes of spreading good health and happiness. He also promoted high-profile initiatives for world peace and visited more than 100 countries to bring the traditional Taijimen culture through thousands of cultural performances. Dizi, or disciples, showed their gratitude by gifting gifts in the form of red envelopes to their Sifu, or grandmaster. Such gifts are also given in other Chinese martial arts academies, as well as important festivals. They are deeply rooted in traditional Chinese culture. Although the martial law was lifted in 1987, and Taiwan proclaimed to support religious freedom, religious or cultural movements that did not show support for the ruling party were targeted and persecuted. This was shown in the first presidential election in 1996, where many religious minorities were targeted in a religious purge. Although Taijimen remained politically neutral, they were still persecuted. Even though Taiwan claimed to be democratic, these events caused Taiwan to have an incomplete transitional justice. On November 1st, 1996, accusations were made against Taijimen, but the Kaohsiung and Hsinchu district prosecutors' offices closed the case due to the lack of evidence. A month later, a prosecutor from Taipei's district prosecutor's office, Ho Kuan-ren, was determined to search the branches of Taijimen for more evidence. Ho's searches were only based on false accusations. As Ho searched the branches of Taijimen, he brought along a horde of policemen and cameramen. The media portrayed Taijimen as an evil cult, even though this was their first investigation. There is no evidence or court decision yet. Moreover, after Ho detained Dr. Hong and other members of the movement, he created a false association of victims and suggested the public to join to protect their well-being.
While my dad was being detained, my dad's brothers blamed my mom. My sister even received a threatening note at school. Before retirement, my dad was the chief financial officer of a famous company with outstanding credit. However, because of prosecutors' illegal investigation, his credit was totally ruined. 2 or 3 days after my dad was released on bail, the bank withdrew our mortgage. It was impossible for my parents to make ends meet only on my mom's salary. My dad has to ask our relatives for help. However, because of negative news reporting about Taijimen, they were not willing to help us.
As of December 14, 2021, over 10,000 Taijimen members have been impacted due to this case. This was all because of Prosecutor Ho. As the prosecution starts in 1997, Ho subpoenaed Shen, a tax officer who has never conducted any factual investigation about Taijimen, to accomplish perjury. Shi accused Taijimen of being a cram school and tax evasion. Ho directly quoted Shi's unproven words in the indictment and used it as the only evidence against the leader of Taijimen. He used a list of members from his false association of victims committee to help support his position. Ho fabricated the amount of money and asked the National Tax Bureau, or NTB, to impose heavy tax fines. The NTB did not conduct any investigation or waited for court decision and deposed the tax fines right away. This was all done before any evidence was found. Throughout April to the start of June 1997, Ho sent official memos to the county and city government, asking to disestablish Taijimen. He even went as far as ordering the Public Works Bureau of Taipei to cut off the group's water and electricity. Ho was able to control the government even though he was only a prosecutor.
At that time, the Grandmaster Shifu and his wife, Shimu, and some of my fellow Taijimen brothers and sisters had been wrongly accused and detained. I really want to do something to help. Luckily, I was honored to have the opportunity to be a messenger, to help bring documents to the defense lawyer and bring relevant information back to my fellow Taijimen brothers and sisters before I went to work or during my lunch break. I will never forget the first time I met the lawyer. He reminded me that to pay attention to my personal safety because I might be tracked and tagged, and I must be cautious in taking notes. If I'm not careful, I may be taken to the investigation bureau. Therefore, I would often keep several sets of clothes in my car so that I could change into them at any time. The short-handed notes used in different codes to avoid implicating my brothers and sisters. Important messages were conveyed in person to avoid being monitored. In those days, I had never told anyone about this. I kept it deep in my heart for 25 years.
In 1999, 82 legislators and some scholars signed a petition demanding the NTB to revoke the tax bills that violated the legal process. During the public hearing with the Legislative Yuan, or Parliament, the representative of the Ministry of Education pointed out that Taijimen was not a cram school. They also said that it is a violation of the law of evidence to persecute Taijimen based on a full indictment. Even with the government's help, the NTB still refused to revoke the illegal tax bills. During the first instance of the criminal court, the Taipei District Court determined all related defendants not guilty. All innocent defendants also received national compensation. An agent from the NTB also acknowledged the fact that Taijimen is not a cram school. Before the second instance of the criminal court in 2005, the Taipei High Administrative Court and the Taichung High Administrative Court both revoked the tax bills. The NTB did not follow the court ruling and cancelled all of the tax bills except for one. As Prosecutor Ho ordered the Public Works Bureau to cut off Taijimen's electricity and water in 1997, he also froze all of Dr. Hong and his wife's assets, including his properties. One of the buildings that were taken was a Swiss Mountain Villa, but in 1995, the villa was intended as a community for the Taijimen members. As the first criminal court in 2003 declared all defendants not guilty, Dr. Hong's properties were unfrozen, but the Swiss Mountain Villa was kept as a collateral for the tax case. Finally, in 2007, the Supreme Court declared Taijimen innocent of all charges, but the NTB still refused to give back the villa. Even though the property was seized, Dr. Hong still had to pay taxes for it. Members weren't allowed to access or take care of the building. In 2020, the villa was finally given back after 23 years, but 2 plots of land belonging to Dr. Hong that was intended for a spiritual center was auctioned off because of the remaining 1992 tax bill that was previously cancelled. Because the property was seized and never given back, the once majestic villa is now desolate and in ruins. 5 months before the auctioning in 2020, some bureaucrats already agreed on splitting the profit of the auction. According to this document, they agreed to split 50% of the profit of the land. They auctioned off the land because Dr. Hong refused to pay the illegal tax bill of 1992 that was intentionally not revoked. In Taiwan, tax collectors get a bonus from the amount of money they collect. This bonus system is the root cause of the case and the corruption of the government. If not stopped, similar cases like the Taijimen case will happen to innocent citizens.
Why should the world bother for a domestic case of fiscal justice or injustice in Taiwan? The answer is quite simple and double-folded. Because the Taijimen case is essentially not a matter of mere fiscal justice, but of religious freedom and human rights. And so it is not only a domestic Taiwanese affair.
The Taijimen case is not only a domestic case of Taiwan, it is a case of human rights violation. Taiwan is considered a beacon of democracy in Asia. We want Taiwan to stay that way, which is why we are urging for this case to be solved. We want Taiwan to be a better country where citizens and taxpayers can enjoy their rights to the fullest and ensure fairness and justice to all.